Greetings, I'm Dan Van Abs on the Rutgers faculty in New Brunswick. My role in the project is to provide an overview of water issues in the Passaic River Basin. I've been involved in these issues for 50 years now, starting as a high school student. Rutgers University scholars, led by the Clement A. Price Institute, received a planning grant from the National Science Foundation to develop new ways of generating information about water resources that are critical to populations who for decades and centuries have been excluded from the conversation. This is an opportunity to tell stories together, not just about technical issues, but about the ways that real people relate to real water resource issues. What stories can be told? There are many, but for the initial work we focused mostly on stories about the land, the water, and the people using them. Stories about threats to water and people from pollution and flooding, and stories about the utilities that support most people in the Passaic River Basin, providing drinking water for our use, and then taking away and treating the sewage we create. Today we're starting the story at a regional level, but the more important step will be learning about local stories. Your stories. The Passaic River Basin is a watershed, the area that drains water down to the Newark Bay through the Passaic River. The basin stretches north into New York State and includes many of the reservoirs that supply northern New Jersey. The Newark, Jersey City, and North Jersey District Water Supply Commission reservoirs are all in the western part of the basin, supplying urban areas in the eastern basin, such as the Newark and Paterson regions. These reservoirs were built at a time when the basin's wealth was in the eastern cities, and the western basin was agricultural or rural. All of New Jersey was at one time the home of a large population of the people that settlers called Indians, who have been mostly displaced and certainly marginalized through the process of European colonization of this country and the further migration of growth into the New Jersey area. These two maps tell a story about that growth, which got its start in Newark and then built north and west through railroads and highways. The highest population densities are in the older urban areas, which are supported by dense road systems on the right-hand map. Lower population densities exist in the suburban areas, the light green, and even lower population densities in the dark green rural areas. The least populated areas have large areas of wetlands, parks, and reservoir properties, and fewer roads. Now that we know where the people are, who are the people, and where do they live? Let's start with the original people, the Munsee Lenape. Those who only know a bit of colonial history might be surprised that any Native Americans remain in New Jersey, but they do. The left-hand map shows that the largest number of Native Americans reside in the northern areas, such as Ringwood. They've been struggling for centuries to maintain their culture without much access to their ancestral lands, and in the face of water and land pollution, such as the Ford Motor Company's waste disposal practices in the old mines of Ringwood. The right map shows that black residents live across the basin, but with concentrations in the eastern basin. Many blacks came north from southern states in the early 1900s up to World War II to work in factories and other businesses. The Passaic River Basin also has large populations of those the Census Bureau calls Hispanic or Latino people and of Asian people. Both populations are more recent arrivals than the original peoples and whites and blacks. While Asian populations are spread around the basin, and especially in suburban areas, the Hispanic Latino populations are more concentrated in Newark, the Paterson-Passaic City area, and some western basin municipalities such as Dover. In the census, increasing numbers of people declared as mixed race, shown in the left map. They're more concentrated in the eastern basin, but also live across the region. We recognize that people in the Passaic River Basin have different life situations. New Jersey law requires the identification of overburdened communities based on low-income communities, concentrations of non-white populations, concentrations of those with limited English, and combinations of those three. The right map shows the results for this region. Poverty, in green and brown, is strongly concentrated in the Newark and Paterson regions, while minority populations that are not low income exist in several suburban communities, including those with major corporate and manufacturing industries. The long legacy of development in the basin has created major water pollution problems. All developed areas depend on stormwater systems to send runoff into streams, as shown in the left map. These stormwater systems take runoff, pollution, and litter from streets, roads, and developed lands and send it into streams, resulting in water pollution. Industrial and commercial development, including gas stations, have created thousands of contaminated sites, putting public health at risk from groundwater, surface water, and soil pollution. These sites are shown in the right map and, as you can see, are very concentrated in the eastern, older portions. We tend in New Jersey to focus on Superfund sites, but we should recognize that other sites can be just as harmful. Finally, in older urban areas such as Newark and Patterson, storm sewers were combined with wastewater sewers back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The combined sewers once discharged raw sewage into the Passaic River routinely. Now, most of the sewage is sent to the Passaic Valley Sewage Commission for treatment. However, during rains, the pipes get overloaded and discharge all the excess wastewater to the Passaic River. It may be diluted with rainwater, but it is still raw sewage. Let's focus on one more way that people are at risk: flooding. We have several types of flooding in the basin. First is the natural flooding that occurs when rivers receive runoff from storms. The left map shows these areas, while the right map shows where these floodplains are in overburdened communities. The problem here is that we have put land uses, roads, buildings, and more in the way of nature. The result is damaged people and damaged development. In some cases, very flat areas near rivers will flood slowly and then drain slowly. In other areas, the flooding happens very fast and can be very dangerous. The second type of flooding occurs when we've put so much development on the land that flooding happens in places it naturally would not. The problem here is finding a way to reduce those floods. The third type of flooding occurs when storm sewers get overloaded with runoff, causing street and basement flooding. In this case, improving the storm sewer can reduce the street flooding, but you still need a place for the water to go. What you have seen is only one small part of the stories that can be told about the Passaic River Basin, the people in it, and how we relate to water. A very important part of this project is adding your stories about these issues, and then encouraging people to talk about how their stories are similar or different. We look forward to learning from you.